Thanks for inviting me up here. Thanks to the board for inviting me up here and getting me out of my comfort zone. I've been coming to New Beginnings for a lot of years, and I would have never, ever thought of being up here sharing my story or sharing a story. But, you know, sometimes you're not asked to do something at New Beginnings. You're told to do something, and I'm honored to be able to do it, and I'm honored that the board asked me to do it. The name of my talk is Innate is my BFF. What does that mean? Well, here we are the philosophic group. We know what innate is. We rely on innate. We believe in innate. We use innate when we're in our office. You know, we don't use innate. Innate uses us. When we make the adjustment, the innate does the healing. We rely on innate in our own bodies. You know, if we don't violate any certain health rules and regulations, you know, if we exercise and eat right and get adjusted, a very good chance that innate is going to be our friend, our BFF, and keep us alive for a very nice long time. But some of us, and when I say some of us, I'm pointing the biggest finger at me, some of us, you know, leave the office at night, lock the door, and leave innate back in the office and then walk out into the real world and don't bring innate with us. So that's not, you know, that's not welcoming innate as your BFF. So I figured there's got to be a way, there's got to be, you know, an easy to follow rule or lesson plan that someone should have written that we can read or we can follow, a couple of steps that we can follow, that we can incorporate innate more into our lives and solve our external problems for us, okay? Because we're all walking around with our heads down going, oh, I got money problems, I got new patient problems, I got relationship problems, blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do? I'm rolling this rock up the hill, it never gets up the hill. We can't solve it educatedly, but yet we forget that innate can solve it for us, okay? So where is it written down? Where can I find this step-by-step? Wouldn't that be great, Rose, if there was a step-by-step, you know, thing that we could read and, you know, get in? Where would that be? Thank God for B.J. Palmer. This is a green book called The Glory of Going On. This is chapter 5 in the green book. This is the chapter 5 title is called How Does Innate Contact Education, okay? I love this chapter because it's 14 pages long. It takes about a half an hour to read. And I don't know about you, but if you've read any of BJ's talks, it can take a half an hour to read one paragraph. So this is easy to read, and it gives the step-by-step. Just to give a little review. Hopefully this is a review for all of you people. Don't make me get angry. Everybody knows about the innate mind connected to the universal mind. Everybody knows about the educated mind. We are in possession in our bodies. We have two minds working simultaneously. The educated mind is all our experiences, all our learnings, all our teachings. And BJ claims that the innate mind connected to the universal mind is constantly sending us messages via these things called innate thought flashes. Not sometimes, not once in a while, not once a month, constantly, okay? But the educated mind is so mucked up, so self-important, so stubborn, so in control of our day-to-day activities that these innate thought flashes either don't get through, or if they get through, they're like a trickle of information where there should be a flood of information, okay? So I want a flood of information in my life. I want a flood of information in your lives. So where do we go to get that? Let's go to BJ. All right, BJ, give us some wisdom here. What's the first step we got to do? When is the best time to get an innate thought flash through to the educated brain? Obviously, this is BJ's from the chapter. Obviously, when there is nobody home, when the halls are empty, when the rooms are vacant. When is that? When educated is asleep, okay? Now, is BJ talking about you being asleep at night in your bed? Yes, he is, but he's also talking about day-to-day being asleep. When is your educated brain on the back burner and innate is when is innate in the back room and innate brain is in the front porch? Or when is the innate in control? In the now, yes. When you're in the silence, right? When you're in that meditative Zen state, whatever, you know, when you're in the silence, okay? That's so important, and BJ talks about the silence, getting yourself in the silence. Now, BJ he's an outside-the-box thinker, a radical guy. Is this just BJ's idea? Silence is the source of great strength, Lao Tzu. Silence is a true friend who never betrays, Confucius. Obviously, silence is important in the Orient. Everything that is created comes out of silence. All creativity requires stillness. Silence. This is my favorite. In the silence, the heart of God speaks. Isn't an innate thought flash the heart of God speaking to you? Okay? I could put up 200 slides of famous people who use silence in their life to accomplish things in their life, okay? I don't have time for that. Trust me, it wasn't BJ's idea. This is a universal idea. This is a principle that goes around the world, around the universe. When BJ figured this whole thing out that we're about to talk about, at about age 14 or so, when he realized that all this stuff was true, he realized this was a law and a way of life. If it's a law and a way of life, are you doing it? Are you obeying the law? Josh Hand talked about what's your daily self-discipline yesterday. Are you doing your meditations, your breathing, your whatever works for you? Prayer, gratitude, journaling, yoga, tai chi, take a walk in nature. I don't care, whatever you want to do, but do something. Kevin Jackson spends an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes every morning. That's dedication, that's self-discipline. And again, no offense, but you don't have to spend an hour and 15 minutes every morning. You can spend, like Josh said, 10 to 15 minutes every morning, but do something to get your educated brain out of the way, to get the innate brain in the forefront, so the innate is now hopefully leading you through the day, okay? You with me? All right. Step 2, that was step 1. We've got to get ourselves into silence. We've got to take a little self-discipline and get ourselves into silence. Help us, BJ. We promise we're going to meditate. What else do we need to do? If you don't capture the idea when Innate wanted you to and was willing to give, you educatedly lost it. The more this indifference occurs this way, the more Innate becomes discouraged, and eventually Innate ignores you because you ignored Innate. What he's talking about here is a relationship, okay? This is a relationship that we have with Innate, a relationship that we're building with Innate, a relationship we should be cherishing with Innate, nurturing. It is the same as any relationship you have in your external life, with a spouse, with a best friend. If you ignore your spouse, very quickly you're going to get ignored. If you don't call your best friend for 2 years, you don't have a best friend anymore. He wants us to realize that this relationship with Innate is not ultimately important. It's probably the most important relationship I take probably out. It is the most important relationship we have in our lives, but we don't even realize it, or we don't, it kind of flies by us because it's not right there in our face, okay? So realize it, cherish it, nurture it. How do you do that? Knowing how fickle is education and its short memories, this man, that's BJ, he always talks about himself in the third party, this man always carries a pad and several ink pens without one moment's hesitation on trains, cars, planes. Out comes that pad and ink pen. In other words, when BJ gets an innate thought flash from his innate, he writes it down. Not tomorrow, then, okay? So, because BJ knows this stuff, did the research on this stuff, created empires with this stuff, I'm going to write it down too. So I started carrying, I'm old school. I got a beat up old notepad and a pencil that I carry around in my pocket, okay? And I've been writing stuff down, and it's been working very well. It's been changing a whole lot of situations in my life. We don't have to be old school. Steve Jobs allowed us to be new school. Everybody's got one of these. Write it down on the phone. But the key thing is, write it down, okay? Why? Why do we write it down? 2 reasons. Number 1, because you're not going to educatedly lose it as soon as education comes back into the forefront, and education will come back into the forefront because that's the human condition. So you're not going to educatedly lose this innate thought flash that is very valuable. And 2, you're basically telling innate, I got it, I'm ready. Give me some ideas. No. I'm humbling myself to you. Let me hear from you. I'll obey. That's the relationship you've got to partake with innate, or cherish, or build with innate, okay? I need you in my life. You don't need me in my life. I need more of you, so I'm going to be ready to hear more of you. I want you loud and clear. I want you like a bullhorn in my ear, okay? Innate, really, this is how I look at it. And I don't care if I'm wrong or not, but this is a good analogy. Innate is like the head football coach in a pro team or major college team. You know the quarterback doesn't call the plays anymore. The head football coach sends in the plays. The quarterback just runs the plays. And Innate is the head football coach sending in the plays into me, the quarterback, in the huddle, okay? I want that loud and clear information. I want my head football coach standing next to me on the sidelines. I don't want the head football coach up in the stands, or worse yet, out in the parking lot. I want these innate thought flashes coming as frequently as Innate wants to send them, and I don't want to miss them. Because when I miss them, my life sucks. Brian Dooley, I spoke to Brian Dooley. Is he here today? Oh, there he is. And I'm saying, oh, my first time speaking in New Beginnings. And he said, don't suck. That was his advice to me. So I'm hopefully not sucking because I'm trying to let Innate work through me. So write it down. Okay, first thing, get silent. Second thing, write it down. Cherish this relationship with Innate. Write it on your phone, all right? Now again, is this BJ being BJ? Is this just the quirky BJ-ism that kind of, I don't know, BJ was famous for quirky BJ-isms. Did you know this? I don't know if Thomas Edison had metallic testicles or not. I do know, this is a cool story. When I was researching this whole thing, this is an absolutely true story. Thomas Edison was famous for taking cat naps in his office, okay, in his laboratory, I should say. He would take 4 or 5 cat naps a day, all right? And he had a special reclining chair next to his desk, and he had next to that reclining chair on his desk a pad and pencil, okay, most important thing. And he would recline in the chair, and he would hold steel ball bearings in his hand. And as he would drift off into that twilight state of sleep, of course, his hand would relax, and the steel ball bearings would roll out of his hand, and he had a metal bucket under the steel ball bearings that the bearings would hit the metal bucket, clang, and wake him up. And he frequently got some of his best answers or problems he was wrestling with in that twilight state, and then he would what? Write it down. Where am I? Oh, so BJ would talk, so I mean, if Edison is going into that twilight state to get his innate thought flashes in because educated brain is asleep, right? And BJ did this too. Isn't it a good idea for us to keep a pad and pencil next to our bed? That's what this chapter says. BJ did that for years and got many of his answers by keeping a pad and pencil next to his bed. Write things down. Who was it? Gary Stewart was talking on the first day how he was asleep in bed and got woken up and couldn't fall back to sleep. And it was the message from Innate was saying, go visit Sisyphus. And you know, I mean, he could have done anything. He could have gone back to sleep. He could have ignored it. He could have said, I don't know, it's a 3-hour drive. I don't want to do that. I'll go tomorrow. I'll go the next day. But it was Innate zeroing in like a bullhorn saying, go, go, go. And he obeyed. And he got up. I don't know if he wrote it down, but he got up and recognized that innate situation in himself and then went and had a phenomenal moment that was necessary for him and probably necessary for the Sisyphus family. So again, when Innate is talking to us, don't miss it, all right? Your life will be better. Your life won't suck. Check this out. That's a statue of Thomas Edison in his, I'm sorry? That doesn't matter. That's the statue of Thomas Edison that he designed to be displayed posthumously after he died in his Fort Lauderdale summer home, okay? Looks like a nice statue. Check it out. See what he's got in his hand? Metallic testicles. So if this was important enough for Edison to display for posterity, this little trick, again, my point is, do the metallic testicle thing if you want. You don't have to. But keep a pad and pen next to your bed because it is a universal principle. It is a universal law that stuff is relayed to you in that twilight state, in that sleep state, or waking you up in, you know, where you can't get back to bed. That's innate talking to us. Recognize it. Again, there's so many. I could put up hundreds and hundreds. I don't know where it is. I could put up hundreds and hundreds of examples of people who discovered things while they were asleep. DNA, Einstein's theory of relativity, the periodic table, lots and lots of stuff. Book of Job from Scripture. For God speaks again and again, though people do not recognize it. He speaks in dreams, in visions of the night, when deep sleep falls upon people as they lay in their bed. He whispers in their ear. That's what an innate thought flash is. Again, I could pull out hundreds of examples from Scripture. What's the third thing? 3-step process. Get quiet, write it down, do it. Gary did it. Act immediately. Don't say I'll do it tomorrow, because you'll educatedly talk yourself out of it. Or you'll go, what was I thinking? That's stupid. Plus, again, if you act immediately, you're establishing, you're valuing that friendship with Innate, that relationship with Innate. Even if it doesn't make quite the sense or wasn't the exact answer you were looking for, do it. The head football coach can send in a play that can maybe only go 1 yard or get a negative yard, but the next play may score a touchdown. Do it because it's going to open a door to the answer that you are looking for in your external problems, which you shouldn't, problems shouldn't be the word at the end of that, because if you're using Innate to help you, they're not problems. They're just flowing circumstances in your life that are going to be solved. Again, BJ discovered this whole principle, these 3 steps that I'm talking about, when he was a teenager. He was a street urchin. For the first 14 years of his life, he lived on the streets mostly. He said he had 5 stepmothers, each meaner than the next, so he was out of the house a lot. So as a teenager, BJ wasn't sure at first. This is the best part. Because he's a human being like us. He wasn't sure at first. Does this stuff work? It worked for BJ, but is it going to work for me? You know, I know Sigafoos talked about it, some of you like, but that's Sigafoos. I don't know. I have trouble in my life. We had so much education bucking Innate. That's BJ's quote. But then BJ decided to test Innate. When problems presented, he decided not to press for an answer. He tested this process, okay? So I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to raise my hand the highest of all of you. Who wants to test this process? Just me? 30 days. Get quiet for 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, which hopefully you're already doing. Write things down. Carry your phone, carry a pad, keep a pad and pen by your bed, and then act on it. Let's see what our lives look like in 30 days. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be something better. It's going to be something easier, something smoother. BJ soon learned to look up to and listen for the wee small thought flashes. As Innate began to realize education of this young man was understanding it more and more, and education was relying more and more upon Innate for directions, Innate replaced education as the guiding director. Innate became his head football coach, calling plays in. Innate became his BFF. Get it? He calls it the never-ending pal. I just upgraded it into 21st century lingo. Not that I understood what BFF was, I had to look it up. But my daughter knew what it was. Innate replaced education as the guiding director, which is exactly what we want in life, because we want to be innately guided, because we're always going to be correct, or it's always going to flow and be easy and no stress and get the, there are no problems when this state of existence exists. Innate, seeing that he did accept the solution of unsolved problems, became more bold, flashed through more frequently, and usually without hesitation. Innate became loud. It became that bullhorn voice speaking in his mind. And look at what he accomplished. And he's not the only one. I would argue every famous person who's ever accomplished anything major uses these principles. Just to wrap up, court the silence, seek the silence. Actively seek the silence. Actively seek the silence. Any way you want. We all know ways to do it. These are BJ's words to describe an innate thought flash. The wee small voice, the hunch, the intuition, the instinct, the conscience. Write it down and then act on it. That's it. 3 easy steps.
Brian